Hello, I'm Dr. Amber Love Johnson, and this is the EduCurious podcast, where we highlight exceptional educators and dive deep into complex issues. Our guest today is Alek Cosio-Altamirano from Southside Footy, and he is a coach and trainer and somebody that our family really enjoys working with. So, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Amber. Thank you for having me on and everyone at the EduCurious podcast. I'm really excited about today's show. So let's rock and roll.
All right, so let's kick this off with tell me a little bit about you.
Um, my parents are from Mexico. They were both born in Mexico, Mexico City to be exact. And then my dad immigrated here when he was about 19 and then brought my mom with him. I'm first generation American. I speak both languages and I have very much Hispanic culture in my blood and in my person. So that was very unique growing up in a multicultural family in America. I was raised in Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, where I fell in love with soccer. My older siblings played soccer as I was growing up, and then I just kind of stuck with it longer than they did and realized that it was an amazing game. Played soccer all the way through high school and then got an offer to play in college, which moved me to Florida. And that's where I met my business partner, Alexi, who opened up Southside Footy in 2020. We were actually teammates, roommates, and best friends. So I highly recommend if anybody has an opportunity to do business with your best friend, send it. Don't be afraid. Get over that fear and have some courage because it's amazing. Moved back to Florida in 2024 to own and operate Southside Footy with him.
So, talk about how you take a young athlete, however early you start with them, and you help train and develop them and educate them to become their very best version in soccer.
So at Southside Footy and most of the programs that I've worked with, the sweet spot age is about 5 years old. 5 years old is when we see the lights kind of come on inside the mind, especially when it comes to focus and ability to have impulse control, self control, emotional control a little bit. But that's when the kids actually start to become more conscious. When they hit about 5 years old, they can start to listen, they can start to sit down, they can start to pay attention. And that's kind of what we're training at the beginning. But for us, the main focus for the 5 year olds and 6 year olds is to just help them fall in love with soccer. So make it super fun, super exciting, super engaging. We play lots of games. And that way we can hook their attention and hook their enthusiasm with the game. And then as they continue to develop through the program, then we can start getting into the more serious training, more the drilling, the skills development. But that's where kind of my understanding of the child psychology comes into play is you first have to make the kid obsessed with the game by making it super fun and super exciting and play with them. And then you can take that kid who's now loves soccer, loves coming to Southside Footy, and then you can start training them. And that comes a little bit down the line.
When you were younger, a student in a classroom, what got your attention and how did you learn best? Because you're an athlete, and sometimes that doesn't always translate to a sitting learning environment.
So I was actually super lucky when I was growing up. My mom was ahead of her time. She actually enrolled me in a Montessori school. So I was educated in a Montessori classroom, which for me, I didn't understand at the time what the benefit of Montessori education was. But now that I'm older and I look back, I can totally see how the freedom, the individuality, the ability to self manage and become more autonomous is super beneficial to a kid's development, especially when their curiosity is what guides them rather than being sat down and told what to do. So the Montessori education is kind of what allowed me to become autodidactic and like learning on my own, and then has allowed me to become a problem solver and a doer in that realm, and now working in business, which has allowed me to learn new skills and understand the process of learning skills. But for a kid who is like super high energy and wants to be running around, I think the Montessori classroom was the perfect fit for me. It allowed me to explore, it allowed me to be guided in the right ways, but then also gave me the freedom to kind of like be in charge of my own education. As far as translating that into Southside Footy, we definitely bring the Montessori idea into the program because when we do our classes, they're on a spectrum. There's not like, okay, everybody has to be the same skill level and ability. We want a group of kids that are different levels, maybe not too big of a spectrum, but that are closely related where they can be challenging each other. And then kind of the top end is pulling the bottom end forward. And then also the top end is trying to make it to the bottom of the next tier. So thinking about leveling up through the program.
So what is something that you've had to push back on and be like, "No, this actually, this old school thinking, this way works."
So one thing that we have transitioned in our program is age group bracketing. So for example, all 9-year-olds need to be trained together, or all 10-year-olds need to be trained together, or all 11-year-olds, or whatever that grouping looks like by age doesn't really work because of, well, A, the obsession levels, because you could have a 9-year-old who's super obsessed, has a lot of skill, has a lot of ability, and so he's running circles around the other 9-year-olds who are also doing art and baseball and karate and piano or whatever. And so the level of obsession is very correlated to the level of skill. And rather than having all of the age groups bracketed together, like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, the outliers then need to be challenged more. What we do differently is we now do it by skill level. So we are kind of the rubric when it comes to determining the kid's ability. And then that is determined by the volume of kids that we've trained, the volume of kids that have come through our program, understanding the different skills that they need to master before they can move into different tiers. So, for example, we have some 10-year-olds working with 15-year-olds because they're on the same skill bracket, or we have some 13-year-olds working with 8-year-olds because they're on the same skill bracket. So grouping things by skill level rather than by age group is something that we have adopted into our model at Southside Footy, which has really allowed us to push the limits of the younger kids, but also the kids who are like, I'm new to soccer. I'm 13 years old. I've never played before. Where do I start? Instead of putting them with other 13-year-olds who have been playing, and then now they feel discouraged or they're judging themselves or they're being self-conscious, we put them with the other groups that are less in skill level so they are more understanding. But breaking through that self-conscious training with little kids takes a lot of courage.
What I also heard is that you're flexible in how you develop them. You're not just like, no, we have to do it this way. You see who is coming to you and then you harness that, which that's pretty unique in itself too. What are some of the big success stories that you've seen come through your training facility?
We have actually a lot of success stories. I don't want to brag, but we have 255-star reviews, which speaks of volumes of our process and our business. So that's amazing. We have a community now of people that have been writing for us and are believing in our process. But as far as the success stories go, we have taken players who have started maybe 11 years old, 10 years old, and are now playing professional level competition. I myself have trained a couple who have now made it to the professional level. So that's been huge testimonials, huge credit to what we can do. And then as far as the immediate wins, our goal is always to help kids go from one level to the next level. If you think about youth soccer, there's always going to be tiers and then leagues that organize the tiers. I'm going to hype on our team a little bit, but we started a team this past year. The object of the game was to do development our way, take them outside of the competitive model, which is pay to play. We made it 100% free, and then we trained them for a whole year. And every single kid on that team is now playing at an elite level. So this year they have gone, to try out for different teams in the area, and they've all been able to make it be selected in their age group for the elite level. And these are kids that started rec. So when we took them on, they were rec players. They had never played competitive before. They had never done a pay to play system. They had always done rec in their local communities. They wanted something a little bit different. We offered that. And then now they're all playing elite level.
You mentioned you're from Dallas, and my brother told me, please come visit, but just don't come in mid-June because there is the World Cup happening over there, host city, Dallas. I want to hear a little bit about how you feel that soccer opens up a world that bridges different cultures. You have a different culture as your background. I'm born and raised in Florida, but soccer almost just brings everyone together in so many different capacities. Talk a little bit about that as being ground for making connections and community.
What an amazing opportunity for anyone who loves soccer to go and be in the best environment. The cool thing about the World Cup is it happens every 4 years. So it's not something that you can go to every year, the Super Bowl or the World Series. It is a 4-year tournament, and it's changed locations every 4 years. So they were hosting it in Korea, Japan, Russia, South Africa, Brazil in the past couple of years. And so it's really a unique opportunity for the whole world to come together because I think now there are going to be 32 countries represented there. So it's a global thing. Um, and that is so cool for kids who are newer to soccer and who want to be blown away by the environment and the passion. Walking into a stadium, your ears are almost going to rupture because of the volume and the amount of energy and passion that the people produce for their teams, for their countries. And so it's a very unique opportunity. And it's the first time that it's ever been hosted in three countries at the same time. So it's going to be the North American World Cup, hosted by Mexico, US, and Canada. And I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for all of the world to come together and unite for soccer, for the beautiful game as we know it. The cool thing about America is that we are a cultural melting pot. So there's people from all different walks of life, all different cultures, et cetera, et cetera. But for someone who is obsessed with soccer, I have gone to different countries and see kids playing in the street, and then boom, you just jump in and you're playing with them because you have the language that they love. For me personally, I view soccer as a language. The skills, they're like words. And if you can string words together, if you can string the skills together, you can write sentences. And if you can write sentences and play the game and you have a lot of skill, then you're kind of an artist. And so for me, being able to go into any part of the world, not speak the language, but be able to play with them, and can connect with them on a different level. That's not necessarily language itself, but more of a connection because we share the same passion. For me, it's brought me friends from all over the world: New Zealand, England, Spain, Colombia, Ghana, from all different parts of life, where now I have people who I can interact with from different cultures. I've stayed with kids who come from Africa. They cook me African food. I cook them Hispanic food, and we're kind of just coexisting because of the game.
I want to hear a little bit about some of your personal accomplishments. Being a creator of Southside Footy is one that I have noticed, but also going through college and some of your accomplishments with soccer in the game in college. Tell me a little bit about that.
So a little bit about my background in high school. I didn't know if I was going to play soccer in college. I was hanging around with the wrong people. I wasn't doing the right decisions. I wasn't being a good person. So I was like very misled because the world is kind of imposes on you and gives you ideas that you don't necessarily need to follow. I wasn't leading myself. I was being pulled in the wrong directions. I think God had a path for me that I didn't realize at the time. And so I actually came to Florida to play a tournament. That was actually one of the last tournaments before recruiting season was over. I played amazing, and then I got an offer to play at Florida Southern here in Lakeland and got a really good scholarship, and so I wasn't able to turn that down, and my parents were pushing me in that direction. I was like, I want to get out of Texas. I want to be on my own. I'm trying to get away, and so I moved to Florida. So that was the biggest life-changing decision that I've made so far, and it was through soccer, through my ability, through all the hard work and dedication that I had put in, all the endurance that I had for the game, for myself in life. The summers of just training and running on the track and playing in the hot Texas heat and being sunburned after games, all of it kind of had paid off. And then now I was starting a new chapter in Florida. So when I moved to Florida, I was still kind of struggling with my personal confidence and my identity. We all go through those kind of trials and tribulations as a kid. And then once I was on my own, I made good connections and good friends that kind of grounded me. And then Florida became my second home. So that's when I entered the business school, and my mind was shaped and molded by my professors, which I had never really been into education. I had never really found it something appealing. I was more of an athlete. Competition and training, that was the thing that I found the most joy in. But then being in the classroom around professors who really cared about the students and the environment at Florida Southern being so small, it was very personalized. So they got to know me really well. And then I made good connections with a specific professor named Derek Yonai, who no longer is at Florida Southern. But he opened my mind up to entrepreneurship and being able to take the skills and tacit knowledge that you possess and sharing it with the world, because there's other people that need to hear the message that you have, because that is your gift. And that really opened up my mind to taking my passion and turning it into a purpose. So I really am very grateful for that. Those are big achievements for me. I was the first one out of my siblings who graduated college, which was pretty monumental when it comes to my parents and being immigrants. They didn't really know that that was going to be a possibility, and soccer made it possible for me. So I'm super blessed in that way. After graduating college, started my own business training in Texas, which was amazing. And going through the ups and downs of being a sole business owner in Texas, this whole time I was staying in contact with Alexi because he's my best friend. We were actually building the businesses side by side. And then one day he was like, bro, I need you over here. Like, you got to come help. And then I dropped everything and moved to Florida. So I wouldn't say it's big accomplishments. For me, it's like pivotal decisions that have shaped my life that are more important than accolades or awards. Because I think the biggest gift that I have for the world is being able to shape and mold young athletes or people and lead people into becoming the best version of themselves, which I think is my purpose.
What's some advice that you have to a young person who's kind of just trying to figure themselves out?
First, you need to seek within. So go within yourself, within your mind, write, read, be curious about the things that are interesting to you. And then after you do that, be useful. So figure out a way where you can serve, you can help others. It doesn't necessarily have to be transactional. It can just be generous. That was one thing that I was really good at growing up. I had elderly neighbors and I was always willing to help them garden or willing to help them clean their pool or willing to help them mow their lawn. And so that kind of service-based mentality has stuck with me now that I'm older. And I always want to just be useful to everyone. So those would be my pieces of advice. Seek within yourself, find yourself within who you are, what you want to do. And then once you figure that out, go be useful for the world.
So, for someone who doesn't know anything about Southside Footy, can you walk us through what they would see if they came to you or how they would connect their player with you for your program?
At Southside Footy, we want to empower every kid who is curious about soccer to just believe in themselves and develop the endurance and strong character that they need in order to sustain the ebbs and flows of life. And for us, soccer is just the vessel in which we're using the training and the rigorousness, the discipline in order to develop that strong character for the players. So we want people who see our brand, who see our Instagram page or see our website, and they're like, this is cool. This is street. This is not clean cut. We want to be very creative. We have the word joga bonito. It's the beautiful game. It's Portuguese. So joga bonito is playing the beautiful game. And that's kind of the energy that we want to bring. So when somebody walks into our building, we want the unique music to bring an energy that they have not experienced before. We want the open air, the building, the lack of AC. We don't care about air conditioning. We want to sweat. We want kids to work. We want that all to be hardworking, blue collar, making sure that they understand that the process is not happy go lucky all the time. The process is pain and struggle and pruning and getting shaped and molded and being challenged and critiqued. Like, we want them to feel that identity. That's like the energy that we want people to understand Southside Footy brings. Is we want it to be hardworking, blue collar, street, creative, fun, enthusiastic, but also connective.
Something I experienced recently through y'all, through Southside Footy, was my son went with your team to play at Cinco soccer in Lakeland. And I felt I was transported to a different world and I loved every moment of it. So, do you have any insight on that or tell me a little bit about how that works out in conjunction with Southside Footy?
We use Cinco Soccer as our league that we play in. Cinco Soccer here in Lakeland. If you haven't heard of it, go check them out. They're great. They run a great program, great facility. It's super fun. It's super street. It's very on brand with us. It's very casual when it comes to their organization. Super fun. But they bring that ability for kids to play kind of street soccer into the soccer realm that is super structured and organized. We've been using that league to develop our players because the 5v5 format we think is most ideal for them. It's very quick, it's very fast, it's very aggressive. You constantly have pressure, there's not a lot of space. You have to be a quick decision maker, you have to think on your feet. It's given us the opportunity and a platform to train our players in an environment that is not very structured or not very clean cut. It's very unique. It's like going to South America. That's how I would describe it. It's like stepping into South America. You're now at a court where there's people from all walks of life. Everybody's probably not speaking the same language. The music, the food trucks that are there, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. And so that's kind of the connection that we want to bring is it doesn't have to be all proper all the time. It doesn't have to be super organized. It can be fun. And then now the kids are like having fun. The parents are having fun. It's super casual. It's not necessarily like a US soccer club recognized league. It's just the game.
What are your hopes and dreams for the next couple of years with Southside Footy and your partner, and how you want to grow it as a company or as a brand?
As a brand, we want to be disruptors. We want to break the mold of you need to go play club soccer and go pay to play and develop as a team. And that has been the mold for soccer education in the United States for a very long time. We want to disrupt that. We want to break the idea of you need to go play on a team in order to become a better player. Because one thing that I know from my experience firsthand is that when I got recruited, my team didn't get recruited. I got recruited to go play college soccer. When I've gone to try out for teams, it's me going to try out. It's not my team going to try out. So the idea that you need to develop players in a team format, I think is backwards because for us at Southside Footy, what makes us different, what makes our branding different, our model different is we want to develop the individual player to go be successful on a team, not develop a team to then have the individual player go be successful. So we're kind of flipping that mold on its head where a lot of club soccer in the United States is very team oriented. Are you playing on a good team? Because people think that if you're playing on a good team, the individual is getting developed, which I can argue both sides. Yes, you need the team format for the individual to get game time, which is very important. You could play 5v5 at Cinco for 5 years and probably get more touches, more dribbles, more actions than the kids who are playing 9v9 at the organized level. So for our brand, we want to be disruptors in like the status quo of things of how we're going to develop players. And through the disruption, I think we're going to allow ourselves to kind of separate as a brand or a company who does develop elite level players, who does have a pathway towards starting from nothing and then becoming a top level player. If you have the obsession and then you have the right teachers, the path is clear. But if you have the obsession and you're constantly bouncing from teacher to teacher to teacher to teacher because you're going from this club to that club to this teacher to that teacher, then now the pathway gets confused because everybody thinks they have the pathway. Whereas you just need to be around masters who have been there, who know the path, who are staying true to that path, invest in that path, and then you'll reap the benefits of that result. As for the company, we want to reach as many kids as possible. We want to take what we're doing here in Lakeland and extrapolate it and then interact with as many kids as possible, first across the state of Florida, then hopefully nationally. The sky's the limit, honestly. Like, I don't believe in limiting yourself on what's possible. Who knows? What the sport has taught me is through hard work and dedication and determination and grit and tenacity and willpower and all the characteristics that we want to teach our kids, anything is possible.
And then, sort of to tie everything together with soccer and with education, what do you hope and wish that traditional educators knew or are more open to help these students that you see on a daily basis succeed?
First, I think kids need to get energy out. If they're not running around and they're not getting their energy out, it's going to be harder for them to learn because if they are full of energy and then you're asking them to learn, their impulse control is not on point yet. Their ability to have self control, emotional regulation is not on point yet. All of these maturity components kids don't have. So the only way to get them to pay attention and focus is to run them ragged to where they're tired and they have now no energy to be impulsive. So that's something that I have learned is that the kids are the most attentive and the most focused after they're tired. And I can see that because in the beginning of a class, they're kicking the ball, they're playing around, they're not paying attention. But at the end of the class, when they're sweating, all of their attention is locked on you.
You said the sky's the limit. So, what is a really nice balance? What do you see that could be maybe something we all learn from each other and work towards?
Visualizing development or learning as a game, if you gamify it, I think that would be huge for the education system. And you can take that, you can extrapolate that in many different directions. But the first thing that comes to my mind is you can't go from level one to level two if you haven't mastered level one. And so I think that the education system, from my experience, especially as somebody who came through a statewide education system in Texas, the education system is meant to corral you and then to push you through rather than actually stop you and be like, hey, you haven't mastered this level yet. You can't go to the next tier. You're stuck here until you figure it out. And then that would, for me, it would hopefully incite kids to be like, wow, my team's moving on and I'm stuck here. Okay, I got to figure it out. And I think if you gamify it in that way, you have to master this, and then give them the path first, where it's like, this is the path. You have to know this material. You have to know this material. You have to know this material. And then now the kid is like Montessori method. The kid is like doing it on their own. And then the teacher is just checking, get rid of statewide testing, which I understand is important for funding and blah, 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 but get rid of that. And then just the teachers are now the gatekeepers. So if you don't get the stamp of approval from the educator, Amber Love Johnson, who's like, okay, Alek is ready for the next level, like stay here.
So, are there any last closing thoughts that you wanted to make sure that you shared with others, with other educators, with other? Sometimes students watch this and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I could be like him. What?
My closing thoughts is dedicate yourself to something. It doesn't matter what that is. And through the process, you will be shaped and molded into becoming a better version of yourself. And that is the game. So, whatever that looks like for you, even as an adult or as a student or as a kid or whatever, as a young adult, dedicate yourself to something, hone your craft, do the reps, spend the time, master it, learn new skills, and that will allow you to become the next version of yourself, which is required for you to go to the next level.
Great advice. I learned lots from you today, and I appreciate you being on the show. I, I like when we pull non traditional ideas and infuse it with what we have right now. So, thank you so much.
If anybody wants to find us, southsidefooty.com, Southside Footy on Instagram. Mine handle is Profe Alek Cosio on Instagram. But I would love for you guys to follow our journey and then see how we can help the future generation.
So, whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.